to a minimum, please. But now I'm going to ask you all just to mute, turn your cameras off for the moment. And I'm going to introduce somebody that I've, God, how long have we been talking now for? About 18 months?
Possibly longer, Nick.
Bit longer, yeah. Okay, so possibly longer. It feels like hours because time flies when you're having fun. So you are Fred Ralphs. I can tell that because I can read your name on the Teams thing. But who are you, first of all? Where do you work? What do you do?
Okay, so I work for Luton Borough Council. I'm the senior change agent for Luton. Basically, that sort of sits somewhere between a business analyst and a change analyst.
Okay, fantastic. And how have you always worked in local government? How have you got to Luton Borough Council?
No, I joined Luton 5 years ago. I came from manufacturing and logistics. That's my background. My background is very much lean. I learnt from the masters at Toyota, and I've taken that and used it in various different sectors, private sectors of manufacturing, from cars to furniture, both inside and outside of the UK, all the way in the Middle East. I've used it within logistics, various different automotive companies, Jaguar Land Rover, Lotus, to name but a couple other than Toyota, office furniture, domestic furniture, and supply chains. So when I came to Luton, that was the first time that I was ever tasked with using and applying lean outside of manufacturing and logistics.
Excellent, and that segues quite nicely. It's almost as if we prepared this. However, so how is that sort of lean training and experience in Toyota and the manufacturing sectors? How has that lent itself to the work that you're doing within Luton from a sort of process improvement perspective in general?
Well, people probably don't realise that lean translates into just about every single walk of life. Just after I left Toyota and we moved down to Bath to work for a furniture manufacturer. I went to work one day and came back. My wife had unpacked various boxes and she said to me, "I've just Kaizened the kitchen." She'd applied lean principles within the kitchen to make sure that the kettle had a good relation to where the cups were, the sugar, the tea, the coffee, the tap, and of course the fridge for the milk. So it was in the optimum place. And that was lean. And at that point, she actually turned around and looked at me and went, "I now understand what you do in life." So applying lean within the public sector perhaps isn't as way out as some people might first think. There is a direct correlation between lean and everything we do, because everything in life has a process.
Right, okay, and so I guess if everything's got a process, which is everything has a process, everything can be improved.
Yeah, I mean, all lean processes are. It's something where it's repeatable, it's reliable, and it's stable. So if you've got those three items, you have got a lean process.
Excellent. Okay.
Doesn't mean that you can't apply continuous improvement to it and make it better, but you have a lean process.
Okay, and obviously in a minute we're gonna come on to the sort of key area of focus for this session, which is adult social care. But what areas of the organisation have you been applying this sort of lean methodology and process improvement activity to?
Right. So far, well, the big bang started with adult learning. From adult learning, we've done adult social care, building and technical services, economic growth. I'm going to have to crib here and look at my list. Adult learning, adult social care, children's services, citizen engagement and legal services, community learning, customer complaints processes, customer services, housing, temporary accommodation and homelessness, inclusive growth, inclusive economy, out of hours services, parking, PMO, public protection, SGOs, vocational skills, the list goes on. And nothing is out of bounds, nothing at all.
And how does the organisation? So how has the organisation decided on those particular service areas? You know, how are those activities determined? Is that done by you and your team? Is it done by a transformation team? How does this thing actually start?
It's a combination of things, really, Nick. We are within Luton. We have something called Luton 2040, a transformation project to make our town, some might say city, although it hasn't got a cathedral, into something where no one is disadvantaged. Everyone feels included. We are doing the best for everyone. We are as green as we can possibly be. To get to that level, we have got to use and be process driven. So we have to apply lean, even if we weren't thinking about it to begin with. So some of it is driven from the top down, and some of it is driven from the bottom up, because I will get inquiries and requests from people within departments, from managers within departments saying, can you come and help us? Can you come and map our processes? And either or, if you remember the Hard Rock Cafe, they had a slogan, love all, serve all. That's me. I don't care who you are, where you work within Luton and what department, you have an equal call on my time to everyone else. And as a basic principle, any continuous improvement must be driven from the top down as well as the bottom up. It means you get that lovely engagement all the way through. You get people that are in senior positions that can remove stumbling blocks and clear the way for change to happen. And you get the people who actually do the jobs on a day-to-day basis going, this is what I do now, this is what I need. And because I actually do the job, I can probably tell you better than anyone else how we could improve it. I don't necessarily know the technical side of things from maybe an IT perspective, but I know what I want. I just don't know how to get it.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And just quickly before we then dive into this sort of adult social care activity that you've been doing. So obviously you've been active in the sort of process mapping, process improvement, lean arena for a considerable length of time. Obviously you will have used a plethora of tools. You're now using Engage Process. I don't need to dwell on this, but you know, in comparison to the tools you've used, only because we'll have a number of people on this call, we'll have some Engage Process customers using the tool. We'll also have some people that will be using other mapping and drawing tools, and probably paper and pens and wonderful things like that. Process mapping 1.0. Where does, you know, with regards to using Engage Process and all the other tools, just how has that supported? Because you've obviously done a lot of mapping. You've done a hell of a lot of mapping. So how has the Engage platform supported that?
Ease of use and speed. I did 15 adult social care maps in the space of about 3 weeks. When I say that is obviously in conjunction with the process owners. At the end of the day, I consider myself a tool, a conduit, if you like. You speak to me, I know how to use Engage. Engage is incredibly user-friendly as a format. And I always say it makes Visio look like the dinosaur that Visio's been for a long time. But it's because of how easy it is to use, you can work at quite a rapid pace. That's not to say that you don't ask the awkward questions, throw in the suggestions, the what ifs, but you address them all and you capture them all, so that what you end up with at the end of the day is a very, very complete map. Now, 99 times out of 100, you'll never achieve that on a first draft. It quite often takes 3, maybe 4 iterations. But again, because of the way Engage is set up, the collaboration side of it, where you can share with the actual people that you're engaging with, excuse the pun, the backwards and forwards, the comments, the updating you can do before you next both have that window to meet via Teams or physically to carry on the mapping process, means that it doesn't stand still while you're waiting for the next meeting. So, and you can have all these plates spinning in the air at the same time, because you're talking to person A to G, all on different days of the week, all at different times of those days, and it becomes like a constant circle. So within, I suppose, less than 15 working days, we got all of those maps done and we got them all published. We only publish once they've been signed off by the process owners, and if it's deemed necessary by their managers. But publication, it's at that stage, you've got it there into your process handbook. Everything that we do at Luton, that we process map, that we then publish, goes into what we call our process handbook. And our handbook started like everyone's. It had a front cover and back cover, and now it's beginning to bulk out. Yeah, I think at the last count, we've got over 100 different processes actually published, whereas we've probably mapped 3 times that. And I would say that's a fair ratio, 3 to 1.
And just quick, what is the importance of that handbook to the organisation from your perspective?
It gives a standard method. It's a peg in the ground. It's a benchmark. It's a starting point for continuous improvement. It's your as is. It's your status quo. Without any of that, you cannot move forward because you don't know where you are. You haven't got a compass. So the very fact that you've put that process down on paper and the person that you've worked with has said, yep, Fred, that's it. That's what we're doing today. That's great. 5 minutes later, that can be out of date because someone has gone, I've spotted a mistake. Can you change it? Or someone's gone, I've seen a way to improve this. Can we look at doing a 2B map? So you got this continuous improvement cycle, this plan, do, check, act going on all the time. If anyone is familiar with Six Sigma, if you prefer, that's the DMAIC cycle, where you're defining, you're measuring, you're analysing, improving and controlling. All of that fits in within the Engage process mapping tool.
Excellent, thank you. So, I mean, I'd love to move on now to this particular sort of area of focus, which certainly when I heard about it, found really sort of interesting, exciting, which is the work you've been doing in adult social care. So I just want to start by asking, what were the sort of challenges and inefficiencies that existed in Luton's adult social care before you started looking at it?
I don't know, as we were actually looking at the inefficiencies to begin with, Nick. We were driven by the fact that, as a lot of local authorities are, CQC were on their audit cycle. And I think, because I don't actually work in adult social care, what had happened was the timescale had been concertinaed. So whereas people thought, oh, we've got X amount of time before the audit, actually it was X minus 10 or X minus 20. So straight away, there was this need to have our processes, what we did within our social care, mapped so that when we were asked, well, okay, what is it you do? We could actually vocalize it. We could show them what it was we were actually doing. We could demonstrate it. So there was a team put together, of which I was a member, as the process mapper. So purely from that point of view, I then had to engage with all the people from the various different parts of adult social care to get the various different processes down. And just quickly, I will enumerate those. They were occupational therapy, sensory assessments, debt recovery, billing, cancellations, council alarms, installations, reablement, remedial, carers assessments, customer services, discharge pathways, EIP assessments, financial assessments, initial and non-residential, LTP referrals, OT housing, prevention and enablement, the list goes on. So all of these, we didn't have processes mapped. So potentially, if someone went off sick and I'm an auditor, I'm going, so who covers that? Well, no one does. Well, why does no one cover it? Well, we don't know actually what they do when they go off sick. Sounds a bit embarrassing, but the number of times that happens in organizations, full stop, not just local authorities, manufacturing organizations, logistics, anything where something happens, if someone's got a skill and they're the only person with that skill and they go off sick or on leave, then everyone else is a bit, well, we can't do that, we don't know how. And obviously with something like adult social care, it's something that can't happen. So we got the processes mapped. We then had an interesting conversation with CQC and agreed that they would actually access our process handbook through the generic viewer tool, which is again built into Engage, to allow anyone within, in theory, LBC access to the process handbook. We discovered we could use it with external people. CQC, I wouldn't say bit our hand off, but they were keen. They were very keen that they would use this to access our processes for adult social care. Now, that obviously has set a precedent for the future. It meant, from the point of view of CQC and their auditors, that one aspect, they didn't need to visit Luton. They could do that from their home bases, from their offices, wherever it was they were. Potentially, going forward, that precedent could maybe be extended to other external people. I'm thinking maybe Ofsted, if they were agreeable, could view processes remotely, or any other auditing body. So the ripples that go out from that are actually quite large.
And just with regards to, again, sort of collaborating, engaging with those sort of frontline staff, the people working with adult social care, how was that how was that managed? How did you build trust with those people? Were they included in redesigning the processes?
I never dictate how a process should look at the end of the day. Like I said a bit ago, I'm a tool, I'm a conduit, I'm a facilitator. You tell me, right, here's the start point. Anyone that's used Engage, when you bring up a new map, it has two spots on there. It has start and it has end, stop. That is it. Everything that goes in between are the words, the actions, and the doing steps that are told to me by the people that actually do the job. Otherwise, you would be talking to someone who basically wouldn't be here because I'd be a genius. I'd have the numbers for the lottery. I would be living off planet somewhere else altogether because I would know how to do every single job within the local authority. And that's not the case. You have to explain to me what it is you do within your role. Then I can ask those poignant questions like, shouldn't we put a choice point in here? Isn't there could it go this way or that way? But that pretty much is where my facilitation sits within the use of the tool. You have to give me an outline of what you do for your job, then I will help you map it. But the process is yours and always will be.
Okay, but we have a question. We have a question. Glenn, are you there? Glenn Dunn.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I hit return before fully sending off the. I was really looking for sort of a bit more about the sort of the logistics of the mapping sessions. So, did you organise an afternoon and get people around the table, or was it a brown paper exercise where you got people to post-it notes on a wall type of thing? I'd like to know a little bit more about that if possible.
It's very simple, Glenn. I work predominantly from home, so nearly all of my meetings are over Teams. And I tend to book a 2-hour session at a time, and then we roll. So as we get to the end of that 2-hour session, we all look at our diaries and we book the next 2-hour session, and so on and so on and so on, until we've completed the mapping of that process, whatever that process is. As to what it's going to look like, it's the department that I am engaging with, or the service that I am engaging with, that will say, right, you only need this one person for this particular map, or you need these 2 people or 3 or however many. Because we get so far on that first session, a chunk of which at the beginning is always explaining the Engage tool, showing some examples, showing them the viewer application, so what it's going to look like when they get the email with the link on for the collaboration tab. All of that is built into that first 2-hour session, and then we just roll on and on and on. And then when we get to the end, there might be a lapse. Normally I allow them 10 working days and say, look, you've got a 10-day cooling off period, if you like. Please take this away, speak to your peers, make sure they agree with what you've said is correct and what we've got in the map. Make sure your manager's happy with it, if you aren't the manager yourself. And then once you've got that, I will come back to you in about 10 working days' time, and I'll say, right, any alterations? Are you happy for us to publish? And if the answer's yes, we publish. And if the answer's no, then we make the alterations and keep moving until we get to that stage where we can publish. There's also analysis as well built into that along the way, but that's a slightly different story.
Perfect. Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Fred, I am going to ask you in a minute, so just be thinking about it. If there's any of these sort of processes that maybe you could do a quick screen share, so then we can show people what you're talking about. But if you just bear with me. Ellen, you had your hand up, and then I've got another question from Stella. But do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you, so you said in your first sessions you pull up Engage for everybody in the room to see, or pull it up on Teams, you pull up Engage. Do you think that frightens the people sitting in the room to they worry that, oh my God, this is what we got to use, this is what it's going to look like? We've had sort of mixed responses here in Caerphilly as to, if we've shown people the software or people who've done the training, some of them sort of tend to shy away, and then we don't get any engagement from them because they're like, well, I'm not dealing with that, so I'm not doing it. Others then are on board, they want to get a bit more involved and, think, oh yeah, I could have a go at that, that doesn't look too complicated. But it tends to rely on what background they've come from within the authority. So if there's somebody who works with, software and things every day, they're not, overly bothered by, taking on a new sort of software then to do it. But I was just wondering how do you deal with those people in the room, some of them who want to be engaged and want to be dealing with it, or do you think that, or do you just show them sort of a snippet of Engage? Do you not show them a full process map? Do you just show them an extract? What do you show them when you're in that first meeting with them? That's what I was wondering.
Well, over Teams, Ellen, of course 99% of process maps spill over. So they actually only see a snippet. So it perhaps isn't as frightening from that point of view. Because if you think of my sessions, it's a bit like I'm a driver in a car and they're the passengers and they're going, turn left here, go all the way around the roundabout, please, and come back on yourself, etc., etc. They're navigating, I'm driving. And that's kind of what happens within our sessions that I run. Also, I'm very much at pains at the beginning to point out that our whole department, strategic change, we are not and never ever will be in the market to make people redundant. We make processes redundant. We make steps in processes redundant after they've been mapped. But we never ever look to make people redundant. And that, quite often, that underlying feeling that a lot of people come in with, it's the old, oh my goodness, here's the time and motion person again. Let's all run for cover. Our jobs are at risk. And there's the suspicion of, well, why do you want to know how it is that we do what we do? So I'm very much at pains to point out things, the really blatant advantages that there are, both from the point of view of an employee and managers within areas, and even managers of managers, because it takes away all those emotional statements of I'm overworked, I've got too much on my plate, because actually we can quantify it. So people can go to their managers and say, you know what, we've just done this mapping session. The map clearly shows that I do this 10 times a day and it takes 45 minutes. Well, actually, if you work that out against my working day, I am right up to the hilt, and yet you want me to do this as well on top. It's unachievable. Or maybe it is achievable and it's looking at it from the manager's point of view, and the manager goes, right, okay, fine. So if you're struggling, there must be another reason. So it's a tool for both the management side and the staff side to work in conjunction and make smart targets, or as I always say, smarter targets, so that everything, all KPIs are actually achievable and we get everyone pulling in the same direction. I have had very, very little resistance. The one time that we had, I saw the fastest turnaround ever, which was within 2 hours. Someone that was so negative, they almost wanted to throw the screen out the window, to 2 hours later, they were going, well, what about this? Could we do that? Can this work this way? Can we do this? And they just went from 0 to hero in 2 hours. So
yeah, I think once you get started, it's all right. And, you know, the 2B, I think, is a lot easier to map because everybody wants improvements. You know, once you actually get into it, everybody wants to improve. Everybody wants things to be better. I was, you know, it was more that initial shock of, you know, like everybody having to deal. And I suppose when you got, you know, a local government that's up and down, and if you've got leadership changes or whatever, anything else, as soon as you present your staff for that, it's always a sort of like half of them run for the hills and then, you know, the other half don't. So. But that's brilliant. Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Stella, do you want to unmute?
Hiya.
Hiya.
Yeah, no, I think Fred has answered the question actually, and it was about removing of those interim steps. You know, I think somebody else alluded to, you know, the getting in the room with the brown paper and the post-it notes and all the. As much as I love a stationery store, as much as the next person, you know, that actually that's redundant. You have the conversation and you're capturing it direct into the platform. Which then also makes it very instantaneously accessible to everyone. So as people leave the call, they can see how far they've got, they can see what's coming next and give them that space. So yeah, it's revolutionary. I think I saw Ted was on the call. I've had a conversation with Ted, you know, and I said, as soon as I saw the platform, it was like, God, if I added all the hours up I've spent in my time trying to make sure an arrow is straight and joining it nicely to another box, then you know, this can't come too soon. So thank you for sharing, Fred. It's really insightful.
The other thing, Stella, while you're here, is if you get 4 or 5 steps ahead and someone goes, actually, I really don't like that. It's so much easier to wipe out those 4 steps and start again. And you never feel like you've lost mountains of time.
Yeah.
You know, it's great in that respect. It really is.
No, it's instant. You know, it's instant to revise it. And as Ellen was saying, in terms of that B2, you know, if you are shaping a new service, if you are shaping a new process as well as improving something that's already existing, it does allow you to do that creative thinking. Well, what if we did it that way or that way? Or, you know, so you bring people with you on the journey rather than people feeling, oh, we just have a process to do this then, do we? So I think, you know, I think all of that is really helpful in bringing our colleagues who perhaps don't comfortably inhabit the world of saying everything needs a process and needs to be lean, like perhaps maybe most of us on the call feel comfortable in that space.
I mean, bottom line, apart from anything else, it gives you a standard method. So you have an onboarding tool.
Yeah.
So every time someone new starts, the first port of call, you can sit them in front of a screen and say, right, this will give you an idea of what it is you're going to be doing. Yeah. And it will always be there for you to refer back to as you move through your training and you gain the skills. So people become value added to organizations so much quicker. And again, that is a lean principle.
Yeah, absolutely. That consistency, and that builds morale as well and confidence for everybody to say, no, that's the way we do it. Or I have a route to say, I've got a suggestion of how we improve it. And then it becomes very engaging, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stella. Thanks for your question. Fred, are you able, before I move on to the next question, I guess it'd be really interesting just to, where possible, obviously not revealing any information that may be sort of then, you know, a GDPR issue all of a sudden come about. But what would be, excellent.
Go, Nick. There you go.
Right, so just talk us through this. What is this?
Right, okay, so this was actually the very first adult social care map that I did, and it was driven from customer services. In some respects, first point of contact for a lot of people coming in, as in our people from the community coming in to adult social care as users. So the manager of the department was very keen to get it done, and her manager was very keen as well. We actually ended up, I'm going to try, this is going to be unreadable, but I'm just going to shrink that down. Well, you can see I can't even by shrinking it down tinily, get it all onto the screen. I'll bring it back up to something that's actually readable size-wise. But we went through every single choice step. Your choice steps within Engage, because you weight them percentage-wise, you get a proper output in the analysis that you can rely upon from the point of view of costs and time. Also, something that Visio never ever gave us was rework. So if you get to a choice point, for sake of example, that doubles back to a previous step in the process, that 10% that goes back, that 90% that goes back, that comes back round to that choice point, gets re-measured each time as it comes back round and through. So your rework gets measured. So whereas in the old days, if we used Visio and we exported the data from a Visio map into Excel, which half the time it jumbled itself up, we then had to make sense of that, put it back into process step, and within the Excel map, put the equations in and the formulas to drive data out of that. Now, the clever people at Engage have put that all in the background here, so we don't have to worry about that. We can go and make a cup of tea while it does it. But this takes you all the way through. And I noticed there, I like my connections showing. so that you can see where everything goes and everything has its place. Think of a tube map. I always think of a tube map, and it's a bit like that. And if you think millions upon millions of people read the London Underground tube map and always manage to get from point A to point B, let alone how many undergrounds there are across the world, and everyone uses them. So if people can read tube maps, people can read process maps. So what can at first appear a little bit complicated and confusing actually is completely logical. You just follow the steps and follow the questions. So from the beginning, incoming call from a customer, identify the caller and their need. Is the call for adult social care? If it's yes, it's going to proceed along. If it's not for adult social care, bearing in mind this call's come into the customer service centre, then we go, is the customer call about financial assessment? And if that's yes, that goes through. And if it's no, then the customer is rerouted to the relevant team. And we use what we call a negative stop point for that. It's negative is perhaps a misleading title, but it just means that it doesn't apply to this process and won't carry on within it. So all questions are addressed and answered within the process. When we finished this one, Heidi, the customer service manager, was so pleased with it. She printed it out in A3, which was legible. It went up on the wall in the department, and everyone within the department that had input as well, they were cock-a-hoop. Everyone was really, really pleased. Now, the same exercise had been done within customer services about 3 or 4 years prior to that, and the results weren't so happy and weren't so well received. I think probably because it was confusing.
So if I can get this right, so what we're looking at here would be the current as is, or the as is when you, so now, so you've obviously mapped that out, and that's the sort of, and this would be the process map that would be surfaced to the CQC via the viewer app. So is there now a plan? Is there now a plan to now do the 2B at some point? Is there improvement here to be carried out at some point then, along with the other?
And it's being driven already, Nick, because I heard within the last 48 hours that customer service, this particular part, the ASC part, they're looking at adding 2 other tasks in. So this is now, we've got to look at it again to figure out how we can put the 2 tasks in, balance those 2 tasks within the time. Obviously, you've got to make sure that the skills are available within the department for those tasks that are coming in. So and you have to look, whenever you change a process, you always have to look upstream and downstream. Look at the neighbouring processes, anything that connects into it, because if you don't, by making an improvement within that one process in isolation, you can unbalance something somewhere else. So whilst you're sat in your little bubble going, great, we've saved an hour on this and isn't life wonderful, what you've actually done is move the hour or more over the fence into someone else's department, and that will not make you popular.
Okay. So just so I get this right as well, so with regards to sharing these as-is processes with CQC, and obviously then sort of removing the need for CQC to come and spend time with the organisation where they are happy with the processes that they receive or view, have you done anything to sort of identify, I guess, the benefit to the organisation and to the adult social care team for doing this?
Well, we've moved on to 4 key 2B maps at the moment, which are related to the discharge and reablement side of things. And those 4 maps should, and we are very, very close to completion on these, they should, when they're agreed and they're signed off, allow for basically 2 full-time employees' work to be transferred to the discharge and reablement team without increasing the number of people working within that team.
Wow.
Now, I don't know about other local authorities and their annual hours, but we are talking a full-time employee is 1,930 hours a year. So we're talking the best part of 4,000 hours effectively saved.
Excellent. Excellent. And you say, so, I mean, so you talked before about Ofsted. Is there, I take it, you know, so obviously this will be surfaced to the senior leadership team, transformation team. Hold on, wait, before I blather on. Cezanne, do you want to, you've got your hand up, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Ask
just
away.
want to ask, Fred, when you say you shared the process map with the CQC, or there was at a time you said you have a book of all the process you mapped. Is it for public domain, or you have it within your authority, and when there's a need for any compliance or any audit, you just share with them? And what sort of book? Okay.
This perhaps a picture will say 1,000 words here, Cezanne.
Yeah.
There is our process handbook. It's an electronic handbook. It's part of the Engage setup again. So this is the landing page, and there you can see our 4 different service departments, as it were, where everything sits. And this is what we have given CQC access to through our generic viewer. Now,
okay.
Are you an Engaged customer at the moment?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So you know you've got X number of people that've got licenses that can go in, they can model, they can publish, they have administrator rights, etc. Yeah.
Yep.
Also, you should have a generic sign-in, which would be viewer at whatever your local authority is, .gov.uk. Right. You have a password set up that you give to everyone, and they can go in and they should get to this landing page or your equivalent of. Once they get to the landing page, they can then see everything that has been published to date. Yeah. This is what we have given to CQC. We have shared our generic sign-on with them so that they can log in and get to this and access it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay. So the handbook is it? Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks, Cezanne. Karen, do you want to unmute and ask your question that you dropped into the chat box?
Hi, Fred. I'm actually just wondering, you've obviously got a lot of process maps that you're using. So how often do you actually update these? Do you wait until you've been informed that there's been a process change, or is it a rolling program that you use to do that?
At the moment, I am a team of 1 from the point of view of actually doing the mapping. I have got a very, very capable acolyte who is just reaching the end of her training and is actually starting to fly solo with some maps, and they look great. So I'm really pleased about that. That said, it's a bit like painting the Forth Bridge. My goal, my target is to get everything within Luton mapped and then go back to the beginning and repaint again. If in the meantime, anyone like the customer services, adult social care come along and say, we want to make a change, that's great. I will double back and do that. And I always finish every session with every person that I do a map. When we reach conclusion, it's as soon as you want to change, you let me know. I don't care if it's 5 minutes, 5 hours, or 5 years away. It's a process map is only as good as the moment that you publish it, because hopefully some clever person will look at it and go, I can see an improvement. But without the map actually there in the first place, how do they visualize or fit that improvement in? So it's a bit chicken and the egg, but you've got to have the map first.
Okay, so would you expect your team to grow then as you increase the process maps that you actually have, if you're going to have to keep, rolling through them all?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, certainly, I'm looking at 100% increase with just the second person. And if she in time could work at the same speed that I work at, then there's no reason why we can't crack on and get the whole lot out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. Thanks for the question, Karen. And now we have another Karen. Karen, Karen Evans, do you want to unmute?
Yes, that's me, who Fred's talking about, the little young trainee. I thought I'd come in here. I've had no previous experience as in using Engage process. So I asked my manager if I could actually shadow Fred. And I could say he is a brilliant sensei. He has literally, when people are actually on the calls with him, it's their reactions, because it's literally Fred trying to get it out of them, as in what they actually do. And once you actually putting it all onto a map, it surprises them. And then there's also that good thing, as in if they haven't got the opportunity to actually sit with somebody on their first day, you've got this map that could be put up that somebody could actually follow. So actually working along with Fred, a couple of weeks ago, I actually published my first map to do with systems accounts. So thank you very, very much, Fred. He is a very brilliant teacher, and he's going to continue to teach me. We're not finished yet, Fred. We're not finished yet. But I'm hoping that I can actually work alongside Fred and get through some of these other mappings.
That's brilliant, Karen. And there were some virtual rounds of applause for your first sort of process map there. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Fred.
Cheers, Karen. Stephen, do you want to join us and ask away?
Yeah, actually, it's not a question. I was just going to agree with everything that Karen just said. I work with Fred as well. I'm on the program delivery side of things, and Fred has done a lot of process mapping for a number of the programs. So I'm just endorsing everything that Karen's just said. Apart from, Karen, did you say young protege or young?
Let's just leave it there.
Yes, leave it, Steve.
Old Steve, let's just leave it there.
We don't want a Luton Borough Council disagreement.
It's only because me and Steve are retiring around the same time, but I look better.
Right. Okay, wow, that's it. This is a first. An organisation having an on-web workshop row. Okay, so thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Karen. So I'm mindful of time, Fred. So
I'm all right to run over.
I know.
I blocked out half an hour afterwards for questions.
I know you are. So I guess I'd just like to have a couple of minutes, just sort of asking, all right, so what overall from your perspective, and then speaking from to the organisation's sort of perspective, what have been the outcomes and impact, do you think, of specifically, I think, the work in adult social care? I think it's clear that, having this handbook and having this sort of standard way of doing things, I mean, especially when you sort of talk about it, it lends itself so well to every single service area that that's a no-brainer. But with regards to the sort of the adult social care stuff, and obviously adult social care is a constant financial worry for all local authorities that are responsible for that particular provision. What have been the outcomes and benefits enjoyed by that particular service area from your perspective?
It's early days, but as I said with the 2B maps, we're really close to completing. Sorry, it's being able to do more, not with less, but with the same amount of resource that you presently have. Because as I said, we don't make people redundant, we make processes and process steps redundant so that we can do more with the same amount. Going back to the old lean principles of Toyota, the idea was that Joe that worked on that machine over there was more valuable running that machine over there. So you found a way of freeing him up. So you looked at the processes and you found a way of Bill, who stood at the machine beside Joe at his machine, being able to operate both of them so that Joe could go and do something else. So you got more from the same. And it's not a question of standing there with a big whip and making people work harder. It's about working smarter every single time. And that is where we're going with adult social care, and indeed with every single process within the council as we get to them, as we deal with them. It's working smarter. It's empowering people. It's taking people with us on the journey. And Engage has made that so much easier because it's so visual. And anyone will tell you a picture will tell 1,000 words. A map does the same thing.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any more questions that they would like to ask? Audrey, unmute and ask your question.
Hi there. It was an observation, really. So the local authority that I currently work in, Care and Support at Home, I'm currently working with our service designer, George, who's actually on the call, in process mapping numerous processes that we're trying to streamline. And that's part of our redesign process that we're going through. The observation is that when, Fred, you had shown the Engage process map that you had done, what we have done is we've added annotations to some of the steps to provide more in-depth details to some of the steps, as I say, and that is then, we can then export that to a PDF so that it's shown, we're doing it in table format. So rather than, we're going to be meeting with the relevant staff to go through the process map as you're shown on the screen right now. But in order to give away the information, we've chosen to do it on a table format by importing it to a PDF because I really like it because it's very structured and it's step by step and the steps are numbered. And I just wondered if you had used that functionality within Luton.
Not within Engage. I've used similar setups in the past. But it's really, at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you and your authority. My only caveat would be make sure you're taking the people on the journey with you. Yeah. That's the important thing. Everyone that does these jobs for our communities within every single local authority, we are servants to our community. We are there to deliver the very, very best that we can and to give them our best. So the people that work alongside us, we need to make sure that they feel valued, that they feel listened to and engaged with, so that nothing is ever done in isolation. That is my only caveat. But how you get there, as long as you've got a map, it doesn't matter really what format you use.
Yeah, but thank you for your presentation because it's just reinforced everything that we've been saying in our workplace, that, you know, when you've not got a process, you've got a lack of a consistent approach, you've got people being undermined, you've got people lacking in confidence, you know, concerned that they're not doing something right, and then somebody adds something else on. And as we know in our workplace, it just turns into spaghetti junction, to be honest with you. And we have found that when we've done our process mapping. So as I say, my next stage is to go to the staff teams and get their input to see if there's anything that we're missing, if there's anything that can be improved upon. I'm then going to take it to my line manager to look at all the different touch points, to see how many times a process has been, different people being involved in the same task, for example, and how you can streamline that, how you can better manage your resources. So as you rightly said, it's not about losing staff, it's about redirecting staff to the right locations to get the optimum results. And in care and support at home, it's always the service user, that our main focus is on, for them to have the best journey possible.
Yeah,
so,
we upskill.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Audrey. Last but by no means least, Mr. Martin Dainton, Devon's own local gov digital hero. Are you there, Martin?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for that.
You need to turn yourself up. You're very quiet.
Yeah, I should bring my microphone
There
down.
we go.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you, Nick. Thanks, Fred. Really interesting presentation there. You talked about how this process and process mapping needs to be mindful of the impact changes might have in other areas of the organisation, which is always the case, isn't it? But when you're, so my question is, when you're mapping quite complex processes, how do you, or what techniques or strategies do you use to try and keep the focus on a specific process without straying into what could easily become parts of other processes, if you know what I mean? Because often that yes/no junction that you go through, you then start going, well, should we be talking about this bit? Should we not be talking about this bit? When actually we're only interested in adult social care right now, not the whole of the customer service experience.
Again, I would refer you back to step 74. Customer is rerouted to the relevant team. Customer is signposted to the relevant department. Customer, it's the last thing you want when you're serving a community is you've got someone on the phone, via email, the web page, whatever, to ignore them, to ignore their request, to go, oh, it's almost like NIMBY, it's nothing to do with me, sort of thing. So do signpost. When you're talking with people about process mapping and they're going, oh, and that goes off to so-and-so, all right, does it come back again? Well, yes, then after it's been to so-and-so, it comes back, but we don't know what happens at so-and-so. Okay, so you can illustrate that with one of the things, I mean, you can use, for sake of example, other as a tab that you would put in, and under the other tab, you would put, this has gone off to the financial department for financial assessment, put a wait sign in after that, for the amount they say, well, it normally takes a couple of weeks before they come back to us. Great. Okay. Then when it comes back to us, we carry on and it links back into the process. What it should throw up for you as a process mapper is, hang about, I need to go and talk to the people in the financial team and find out what happens in other. Because if I can map what happens in other, then once I've done that, I can use the process link and I can put the process link icon in. I can put the name in of the other map that I've done, and people will then be able to go, all right, it goes off here, but if I'm interested, I can go and see what happens there. So it's think of it like a jigsaw puzzle. Think of your authority like a jigsaw puzzle, and all the processes are pieces. And you will have some that are sat right in the middle of the picture, because you can see from the box that's got the picture on, that's where that piece sits. But you can't find any other pieces around it yet. But as you move forward, more and more connects, more and more connects. And that, again, will help to establish and solidify relationships between departments. And there's more interaction. As you get more interaction, that in turn will lead to more process improvement, more continuous improvement, and more idea sharing. So I cannot really emphasize how important getting your process maps done are. And before anyone asks the question, I actually share my published process maps with Nick so that we are trying to build a library. So if any of you think, oh, I wonder if Luton have mapped this, ask Nick. If he's not got a copy of it and I've done it, I will share it with him. Nothing is top secret. At the end of the day, we are all in the same boat. We're all trying to do more with less. And if we can stop having to reinvent the wheel up and down the country, great. So much the better. That's what we're all about.
That was going to be my next question, is whether some of the work you've done can be shared, but it sounds like that is possible. Excellent.
Yeah, thanks, Martin.
Thanks.
Any more? Any more for Fred? I am mindful, obviously, that just looking at the time, it's 6 minutes past 3, and we've lost 20 people because everyone works in hour slots now, post-COVID. So are there any more? Glenn?
Yeah, just a quick question. Really keen to hear a little bit more about the process handbook. I appreciate that could probably take up another session on its own, but I've looked at Viewer and I can't even begin to figure out how you created the handbook within Viewer. Is it possible we could connect another time, Fred, if you haven't got time just now? Or
Glenn, those awfully nice people at Engage did it for us when we actually bought the platform. And we got our licenses. So Pascal did ours, top bloke, but then they're all great people at Engage. Yeah. And I'm sure if you speak to them, if you haven't already got it, they will help you set that up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're
and
welcome.
A great session, gents. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I will just quickly, with those that are left, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us on this session today. I am just going to quickly share a screen. Can you see that? Can you see that, Fred?
Yep.
Yeah, basically, what we're going to do post activity is we're going to send you a copy of the case study, which we did with Fred around what they've been doing with the Engage Process platform, but more importantly, the adult social care work. There are 3 wonderful people there identified as Dean Stratton, Manola Wong and Lawrence Allen, who are points of contact. But Engage has a great local government community made up of wonderful people that have attended this session and put stuff in the chat box, people like Fred. What I really like about the Engage Process community is they're all very much willing to share with each other and work with each other. And as Fred's, I think, pointed out in his last paragraph, you know, a lot of councils deliver a lot of the same services, but sometimes in very different ways. And actually, a lot of these processes should be very similar, if not identical, in their process steps. It just so happens that you're using different technology in different ways, and that will have some effect. But if you would like to get in contact with me or with any of those people there, they're more than happy to show you in a bit more detail how the platform works. There are a number of organisations currently at the moment that are trialling and doing a proof of concept, and Engage Process are always happy, I think, to put their money where their mouth is, and also even, you know, coming and visiting you wherever you are in the UK to have a chat around you know, your particular issues and problems around various surface areas, what they call a discovery session, and maybe talk around how maybe process improvement, process mapping, process exploration might be able to help. But I would like you to join me in doing a virtual round of applause for Mr. Fred Ralphs and his wonderful sharing of all the stuff he's been doing. Thanks to Stephen and thanks to Karen, otherwise known as the Fred Ralphs Appreciation Society, for coming on and attesting to how wonderful he is, and obviously having an online battle about that.